jumping right in. Obviously the radiator comes out first. Taking the engine out's the hardest because you got to walk back and forth to get all your tools. I've got some bolts that are wrapped in Teflon tape that I shove into the automatic transmission lines while I'm down there. That battery was dead. Unrecoverable. You know that filter that's inside that air box there? Not the air filter, but the other air filter. That's a carbon filter. I only just learned that. Apparently it helps with smog, filtering the incoming air, which I don't really understand, but... Be ginger with those bulkhead fittings. Connectors, things can go awry. Where the hell did I go? Oh, that's right. So I had to make a tool in order to fit that fuel line. Maybe I'll show it to you if I get a chance. I just took some pieces of plastic and cut some pieces of plastic up and shoved it down in there to release that quick fitting. I had bought the fuel line release tools from Harbor Freight, but they didn't work out. Just didn't last. I think I broke it, then lost half of it. That EGR off the back side of that head that comes up to the back of the intake, I can never seem to find the right wrench to fit that. I mean, size-wise, no. I know what size it is, but I mean the length of the wrench is kind of a critical factor. Probably going to end up taking the wrench that I use all the time and cutting it down just for that. I like to mark those heater hoses so I know where they went. I can never remember. Yeah, check out this rookie move. I got that electric ratchet stuck there. And the bolt had come all the way out, and there was no there was no using the ratchet to try to drive it back in because you don't want to cross thread it, So I just pulled that AC line off. Still pretty boneheaded. The first of many bags. I got a lot of Ziplocs, all labeled. I keep them in an even bigger Ziploc and reuse them. It's pretty ridiculous. I like to put the bolts back where they go. I just feel like that way things don't get lost. You know, unless it's something like the intake or crossover tube there, or, you know, something along those lines. You know, I don't put the nuts to the exhaust back on, but I put them in a bag. Crank pulley bolt is 135 foot-pounds, and that impact takes it off with ease. You know, for a stubby, tiny, little lightweight 12-volt impact wrench, that thing is incredible. Love it. You know, I saw somebody in the forums the other day talking about, oh, don't take the intake off of your Subaru engine before you pull it. You're just wasting your time. I don't think so. You know, think about what a pain it would be to try to get to those torque converter bolts with the intake manifold on. I mean, shit, you can't even see them. You got to take the intake off anyways. So why not just do it in the car? Makes sense. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. This is the first Subaru I've done where I pulled off all the bell housing bolts and nuts without crawling under the car to do it, which was interesting. Using a magnet to try to fish a bolt out, or nut out that I had lost down in there. More bags. Neighbors here. That's a pretty common thing around these parts. Garage doors open. This place is a revolving door of people. It's fun. I like it. I love my neighbors. It's hard to get work done though. Exhaust nuts, engine nuts. You know, here I learned that not all of the exhaust nuts are stainless, which I thought was interesting. There's a few Stover nuts in there too. Somebody fucked up.
Hey, what happened?
Well, engine's out. I don't know if the time lapse I took of me pulling the engine out is going to work out at all, but we're about ready to get this all cleaned up. I got the pressure washer all set up. The car is on stands. That's everything I pulled out of it. The radiator that we talked about doesn't seem as plugged as I thought it was going to be. It doesn't look like this car spent a whole lot of time off-road. I picked this up today, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, a few things to note about this engine here. This will be the first one that I've pulled apart that has official 6-star gaskets in it, so that'll be interesting. And let's see, what else? Oh, the timing belt. Super new. Great condition, but listen. Can you hear that? There's so much play in that bearing. Something that I hadn't seen before. Let's push this down here. These, yep. These tabs. You read what that says? I had to look them up, but apparently they're heat related. So if it gets too hot, I guess the seal breaks and it voids your warranty. Basically saying you overheated the engine. But here's another one. I had intended to have these heads rebuilt, but now that I'm seeing all of this, I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case. I'm going to try and do some digging and find out when the head gaskets were replaced, because you know, if I don't have to rebuild these heads, well, I don't know. We'll see. So, anyways, here's your good look at it. I mean, it's pretty clean. It's not very much grease in here. You know, the
The seals are still soft and pliable. On the inside, I did pull this cover off here. The cam caps are still in good shape. You know, there's a little bit of grease in there, but of course, there's an axle that's blown, so. Anyways, I'll come out here and have a look at this. So the rotors are pretty fresh, and the brakes are new-ish as well, but actually, you know what really got me was, look at the condition of that rubber. These are new. These have been replaced recently. You know, same thing in here too. I don't know if I'll be able to get that for you there, but of course, those are clapped right out. Anyways, the transmission has most definitely been rebuilt. New torque converter, nice and clean. And some writing on the side. So it's not an anomaly. Both sides were done. Those are in such good condition. Of course, the rears leave a bit to be desired as far as I'm concerned, so we're going to replace these. And I think the pads are new, but we'll see about what we want to do with those. There's been quite a bit of weight in the rear at some point. I don't know if I can get a good shot of this down up in here. The condition of those bushings. No, doesn't look like it. No, it's not gonna let it happen. Oh, here we go. Yeah, those are pretty shot. Probably can't see up in there. You can never see these until you get them out. Anyways, you know. Anyway, give you a good idea of how things look before we clean them up. The rear struts are in pretty good shape. They don't appear to be leaking any oil, but we're probably going to change them anyways because that's just how we do. The fronts are another story. There's a little bit of oil on there, so definitely the fronts, but anyways. So my like 10-year-old pressure washer here. I got some new equipment this time though. We're gonna use a rototip. If you've never seen one of these things, they're pretty incredible. Basically it's not a fan, it's just a straight, and then it's like a ball bearing inside there and it just rotates around. They're incredibly useful. Yellow tip, that's a pretty strong one. And then we're gonna use a white one, especially when it comes to the radiator and the AC. Not so much the radiator because we're gonna throw it out anyways, but the air conditioning condenser. It's a little lighter, but really the new equipment is this. And so I don't know if I could do this with one hand. Basically you pull this, there we go. And then you can angle it however you want. So when it comes to working this thing all up in this suspension and getting around back behind stuff, because you know how much I hate working on stuff that's dirty. So before we pressure wash the engine, I put the oil filter back in, and then I've taped up all of the exhaust, and then the intake has been done as well. Put rubber caps on here, put the spark plugs back in. You probably can't see down in there. There you go. So, anyways. And then here in the engine compartment, I got the fuel lines taped up. I've got the bulkhead connectors taped up. I've hung the power steering and air conditioner, and it's about as far as I'm gonna take it. So let's get some 505 on it, get her cleaned up. So we're gonna try this stuff. We're going to put it on the radiator. I gotta pull the fans and overflow tank off. But then we're also going to put it in the air conditioning condenser. So maybe it'll clean that up. We'll see. All right, fans have been pulled. Naughty, naughty previous mechanics hammering the shit out of this thing. This is why I learned to work on my own stuff. Now, I don't intend to reuse this radiator. I'm just kind of curious if this will do a good job cleaning it up. You know, as these cars age, these cores get more and more and more plugged, and you know, I keep seeing it. People come in talking about, my car's overheating. Check your radiator, make sure it's not plugged up. Oh, it's not that. I looked, it's fine. No. You really gotta look.
So you may be wondering why Am I pressure washing it again? Didn't I do that in the last video? And yes, I did. So the thing about it is that you can only get to what you can get to while the engine's in it. And there's still so much grease and nastiness, and I mean, I'm gonna have my hands all over this thing, and well, as you'll see in future videos, I use a lot of shop towels. So the cleaner it is going into it, the better. I get a chance to clean it up, look it over. Gives it being clean gives me a better idea of what parts we need. Especially as we get later into this video, you're going to see me going through the suspension, pressure washing the suspension rather, and it just looks better overall. All those little nooks and crannies, dirt, debris, grease, grime, grit, gets a chance to hang out, and I just like it clean. So you need to be extra careful when you're pressure washing a core like a radiator or air conditioning condenser or something along those lines. It's real easy with the pressure washer to bend over those fins, and you don't want to do that. So I'm not hitting it real hard. I'm being pretty easy on it, and you'll see here in a moment. Try to stay perpendicular to the core so that you're not bending over any fins or doing any damage to it as you're pressure washing it. Now, it doesn't matter with this radiator because we are going to end up replacing it anyways. And if I was smart, I probably would have blew out the backside of it. But right about here is where I hatch a real evil idea. I'm going to switch over to the rototip that you're about to see. And then I'm going to use that rototip to destroy the radiator. Now, if you're familiar at all with pressure washer tips, you generally have different fans, different intensities of how the pressure is applied. And so the white's pretty soft, green's pretty soft, the yellow's pretty tough. The red tips are generally, they're just holes, and it full force out of the smallest orifice that it can. Well, the rototip is that on crack, because what you get is essentially a red tip, just a hole inside of what is effectively a ball bearing in the end there. And so what happens is that ball bearing rotates as the pressure goes through it, and it creates that conical sort of shape. And the result is an insane pressure washing tip. It's kind of funny how the camera shutter speed does, the rolling shutter does that rototip. Anyways, what you get is the strongest, in my opinion, the strongest fan, with the least, not the least amount of damage, but you could take paint off of a house with the thing if you wanted to. And in fact, that's why I know them. Is in a previous life painting houses, I would be the one tasked to go pressure wash homes, and we worked on a lot of old Victorians, paint peeling off of them all over the place. And this was a good way to blow that old paint off, give us a clean substrate, and then from there we would, you know, do whatever prep work we were being paid to do. But so I bought one, and Jesus, that thing's probably 15 years old now. I hide it from the wife. She's not allowed to use it. She destroys shit with it, just like I did. So despite having taped the intake and exhaust manifolds, the rototip just chews right through it. There's just no stopping it. I'm not really that concerned with it, only because I know, at least I think I know. I know now, but at the time I was thinking that, you know, I was going to end up shipping those heads off and having them rebuilt, and which I did end up doing, but that's for another video. You shouldn't be privy to that information yet. But I suppose if you're watching, you deserve to know. Or if you're following on the forums, then you're well aware. Things are so much nicer to work on when they're clean. You know, we're going to tear most of the suspension out of this car, and trying to pull off nuts and bolts that are, you know, got 15 years of caked on road grime, mud, grit. Just it's brutal. Yeah, lavender scented simple green. Home Depot was at a fast 505. I went there 2 days in a row. The lady told me that they were supposed to get a shipment and they didn't, which is unfortunate because 505 is pretty amazing. This just suspension stuff though, and so simple green will work. Plus it's biodegradable. Most importantly though is I love the smell. Lavender's my favorite. That handle, I don't know where it comes from. It came on some product that I was using for some other project. I can't remember what. But it's been the most useful because the cap just screws right in to all of those gallon containers. You know, Fast 505 or in this case Simple Green. And having the ability just to use one of those big gallon containers and just spray right out of it, it's key. Unfortunately, the trigger, the plastic part of the trigger broke in half, and so you can only get one finger on it, and unfortunately it's an absolute pain in the ass to use. But it still works, and like I said, I don't know where I got it from, so we're gonna just keep on using it. That having that angle on the end of the pressure washer sure is nice. As you can see, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to try to get up into those hard to reach areas, you know, with the pressure washing wand. But when you squeeze the trigger, that initial blast of pressure really throws your hand for a loop. I don't know if you're paying any attention, but there's sure a lot of grime that's coming off of that suspension and ending up on the ground underneath. There goes my grease and oil containment unit. I think at that point it already served its purpose. I mean, if you're gonna do this kind of stuff, you can't contain all of the mess, but I think it's your responsibility to try to do what you can. And putting a piece of plastic underneath that, not the suspension stuff, but definitely the engine stuff, goes a long ways. I remember when I pulled up that plastic and went to go dispose of it, I was surprised at the amount of grit and grime that was in it. Even though the water had run off, there was quite a lot that remained. The pressure washer's not on there, it's just house pressure. Just trying to get it wet, because we're about to do dish soap. So, why dish soap? You're not supposed to use dish soap on cars, and you'd be right. I know what's coming, and so my goal here is not only to clean the car, but also to try to remove as much wax and grease and oil as I can. The car's been sitting for a while. previous owners may have put some wax on it. Probably not, but in case they did. And this is just a preliminary cleaning. I'm not getting crazy about it. You know, the car's going to end up sitting out here for a week or two while we dive deeper into it. Let's just say that. So I don't want to spoil what's coming. But dish soap is what we use when we go to paint cars. You know, I got to paint the front bumper on this thing, and so I like to wet sand with dish soap. Not only does it clear the grease, and now the pressure washer's on now. Not only does it clear the grease and skin oils and stuff off of the part that you're wet sanding, but also keeps the sandpaper from clogging, acts as a lubricant, carries away grit. I guess not grit, but sand particles, sanded paint particles. Getting the car prepped this way was an all-day affair. It was all day and it was tough. Fortunately, I think this is the last of the GoPro 3 footage that I have. Seems like the audio was pretty iffy in it. Wasn't great to use. Picture quality is not great. I think this is at the point I decided to get the Hero 9, so that's fortunate. I don't know what happened to the audio in these clips. I said something along the lines of, you didn't think we weren't gonna, did you? Something to that effect. Nobody ever cleans underneath their gas cap, or the fuel cap cover, I guess. Yep. Squeegeeing it off. It's not a it's no time for water spots. We don't need to go making it worse. It's supposed to be getting better. And actually the car cleaned up pretty well. It was tough for me to see, you know, what it was after having got it off of the shipping truck. I mean, you saw it in the same condition that I got it in. It was filthy. The car had obviously been sitting around for a while. But she shined up pretty nice.
Okay, let's see how we did. It's not perfect, but it's a hell of a lot cleaner than it was. If you're from the East Coast and you're watching this, man, I feel sorry for you. Yeah. What a thing. Yeah. Sorry, East Coast folks. Fun. The backside of the radiator. But man, it did not survive. That roto tip just absolutely destroys shit. Incredible. The engine cleaned up pretty well. This tape never really survives. It, I don't know, it's the best that we got, but something that stood out to me was, look at this. This is orange RTV sealant where the wrist pin access hole is. Now, earlier we put the, we fired up free SSM and found out that cylinder number 1, which is here, misfire. And there's RTV on cylinder number 1 wrist pin. It didn't look like any of the others had been messed around with. It's kind of hard to see in there. It's not gonna let me, but anyways, yeah, it's kind of hard to see in there, but somebody's been in it before. So it's really interesting. We're going to do a full-blown autopsy on this engine. We're going to be tearing it completely down, finding out what's up with it, and seeing if we can rebuild it and make something usable out of it. So I guess stay tuned for that. Peace.